Parents of killers. What's your story? I used to look at my son's hands and remember how they'd curl around my finger when he was a baby. Now when I see them in my mind, they're stained with something I can't wash away. And I'm left wondering if the stain was always there, just waiting for the right moment to surface. You never think it'll be your kid. That's the cliche, isn't it? You see those stories on the news, the stone-faced parents shuffling into a courthouse, and you think, how did they not know? What kind of monster did they raise? You judge them. God, how you judge them. I know you do. I did too. My son Leo wasn't a monster. Not to me. Not to his mother, Sarah. He was quiet, yeah. He was the kind of kid who preferred building intricate Lego cities in his room to playing football in the street. He had a focus that was almost unnerving. He could spend 8 hours on a single model, his tongue poked out in concentration, and the world outside his door would just cease to exist. We called it his bubble. In hindsight, maybe we should have tried harder to pop it. The signs, if you can call them that, were small. They were the kind of things you explain away because the alternative is too terrifying to consider. He didn't have many friends. The ones he did make in primary school seemed to drift away by the time they were all starting secondary. He wasn't bullied, not in the traditional sense. He was just overlooked. He was wallpaper, and he seemed to prefer it that way. He'd get his report cards, all good marks, with the same teacher's note every single year. Leo is a bright boy, but very quiet in class. Would love to see him participate more. We tried. We pushed him into chess club, coding camp, even karate. He'd go without complaint, perform adequately, and then quit the moment the session was over. He never brought the enthusiasm home. His real world was in his bedroom, with his models and his books and the hum of his computer. Sarah and I worried, of course. We were good parents, I think. We had family dinners. We asked about his day. He'd give us one-word answers. Fine. Okay. Nothing. We'd press and he'd just retreat further into his shell. This look of mild annoyance on his face, like we were a buzzing fly he was waiting to swat. You learn to stop pressing. You tell yourself it's just teenage angst. You tell yourself he'll grow out of it. You want to believe it so badly that you make it your reality. The boy he killed was named Ethan. He wasn't a bad kid. Not really. He was just the opposite of Leo. Loud, popular, captain of the rugby team. He lived a few streets over. They were in the same year but moved in different orbits. I don't think they'd ever exchanged more than a few words in their lives. That's what the police said anyway. The day it happened was a Tuesday. It was gray and miserable, the kind of damp November day that gets into your bones. I came home from work. I was a project manager for a construction firm back then, and the house was quiet. Too quiet. Sarah was at her sister's, and Leo was usually home from school by then. I'd hear his keyboard clicking away upstairs. But there was nothing, just the hum of the fridge and the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. The clock had been my father's. Leo always said he hated the sound of it. I called his name. Nothing. I went upstairs. His room was tidy, which was unusual. He was organized, but his desk was usually a controlled chaos of books and components. Today, it was clear. His school bag was on the floor by his bed. I checked my phone. No messages. I figured he'd gone out, maybe to the library. It was strange, but not alarm bell strange. Not yet. The alarm bells started ringing about 2 hours later, when Sarah got home and he still wasn't back. Her face went tight with a specific kind of maternal anxiety I'd come to know well. We started calling his phone, straight to voicemail, every single time. We called the few kids we knew he occasionally spoke to. None of them had seen him since school. Panic is a cold, creeping thing. It starts in your stomach and spreads outwards until your fingers are numb. By 9 p.m., we were frantic. We were about to call the police when they called us. No, that's not right. They didn't call. They came to the door. 2 of them, a man and a woman in plain clothes. Detective Miller was the man's name. I'll never forget his face. It was tired and impassive, like he'd seen everything and none of it was good. Mr. and Mrs. Croft, he asked, his eyes scanning past us into the warmth of our hallway. Yes. Is it about Leo? Is he okay? Sarah's voice was thin, ready to snap. Can we come in? Miller asked. It wasn't a question. They sat on the sofa we'd bought together a decade earlier, the one where we'd cuddle up to watch movies, the one Leo had built a fort out of when he was little. And in the space of 5 minutes, they dismantled our entire world. They told us there had been an incident after school, in the woods behind the park. A boy was dead, Ethan Cole. They said they had reason to believe Leo was involved. They used words like, person of interest. I remember laughing. A short, sharp, incredulous bark of a laugh. Leo, you must be mistaken. He wouldn't hurt a fly. Detective Miller didn't even blink. We were about to report him missing, I said, the words feeling stupid and hollow as they left my mouth. He's not missing, the policewoman said, her voice softer than Miller's but somehow more final. We have him in custody. He was found near the scene. Sarah made a sound I can't describe. A wounded, broken noise that came from the deepest part of her. She just folded in on herself, her hands covering her face. I felt nothing. It was like my brain just refused to process the information. It was a system error. A blue screen of death for the soul. They were talking about a different Leo. They had to be. The hours that followed are a blur of procedural nightmare. They asked to search Leo's room. We let them. What else could we do? They were polite but firm, bagging up his computer, his notebooks, his phone which they'd already taken from him. I watched them, feeling like a ghost in my own home, as they methodically packed away my son's life into evidence bags. I kept expecting to wake up. We saw him the next day. They'd held him overnight. We had a lawyer with us, a man whose hand I shook but whose name I can't remember. They brought Leo into the interview room. He was wearing a gray paper-like jumpsuit. His face was pale, and he had a small cut on his cheek. But his eyes, that's the part that haunts me. They were completely flat, empty. He looked at me and Sarah, and it was like he was looking at strangers. Leo, Sarah whispered, reaching a hand across the table. Leo, baby, what happened? Just tell us what happened. He looked at her hand but didn't take it. He just stared. The lawyer put a gentle hand on Sarah's arm. Leo, the lawyer said, your parents are here. We're here to help you. But you need to talk to us. And then he spoke. His voice was hoarse but steady. There's nothing to talk about. Did you know Ethan Cole? The lawyer asked. I knew of him, Leo said. Did you see him yesterday? A pause. It felt like it lasted a year. Yes, Leo, the police say you were with him in the woods. I finally managed to say, my voice cracking. They said he was hurt. Leo's eyes finally met mine. And for the first time I saw something in them. It wasn't fear, or sadness, or regret. It was irritation. The same look he gave us when we'd ask him to turn his music down. He was bothering me, Leo said, as if that explained everything. Bothering you how? The lawyer pressed. Did he threaten you? Did he attack you? Leo just shrugged, a small, infuriatingly casual movement of his shoulders. He was just there, in my space. He was loud. That was it. And that was his explanation. Over the next few weeks, the horrifying details came out. Not from Leo, he never spoke of it again, not to us. But from the police, from the prosecution, from the evidence. Ethan had been walking his dog. He'd seen Leo sitting on a log, apparently just staring at a tree. Ethan, being Ethan, had tried to make conversation. Joked with him. Maybe he was a bit of a dick about it. A witness who saw them from a distance said he was laughing. He tried to get a reaction. He got one. Leo had a rock in his hand. A heavy, jagged piece of granite he'd been fiddling with. He'd told Ethan to leave him alone. Ethan didn't. He playfully shoved Leo's shoulder, and Leo stood up and hit him with the rock. Not once. 17 times. The forensic expert said the first blow would have been enough to render him unconscious. The other 16 were unnecessary. That was the word he used in court. Unnecessary. Our solicitors argued my son's history of being bullied, trying to make the jury see what he'd been through. They explained that when Leo asked to be left alone, it was a warning. That the shove he took, even if it wasn't meant to be vicious, was still technically assault. They said my son only lashed out to defend himself and that, the other 16, that was just years of anger bubbling up from the relentless torment he'd faced. Their whole argument was that this was a self-defensive crime of passion. The trial was a public crucifixion. We were no longer David and Sarah Croft. We were the killer's parents. Our photos were in the papers. News vans camped outside our house. I lost my job. They said it was downsizing. But we all knew the truth. No one wants the father of a teenage murderer managing their multi-million-pound project. Sarah, who was a teaching assistant, was put on indefinite leave. The parents at her school had complained. Their children were scared of her, scared of the woman who used to put plasters on their scraped knees. Our friends vanished. Some did it with a quiet fade, not returning calls. Others were more direct. My best friend Mark, a man I'd known since we were 5, told me he couldn't have me around his kids anymore. I'm sorry, Dave, he'd said, not looking me in the eye. It's just, you don't know what's genetic, do you? Genetic. He thought the evil was in my blood. And the most fucked up part? I started to wonder myself, where did this come from? I'd lie awake at night, scrolling through every single memory of Leo's life. The time he threw a tantrum and broke his favorite toy, was that rage? The time he dissected a frog he found in the garden, was that a lack of empathy? Every normal, childish act was now viewed through the dark filter of what he had become. I was driving myself insane, trying to find the point where my son, my quiet, gentle boy, had curdled into a monster. Sarah and I fell apart. We didn't have a big explosive fight. Our marriage died a slow, silent death from 1,000 unsaid things. We'd sit in the same room, suffocated by a grief we couldn't share. My grief was for the son I thought I knew, the life we'd lost, the future that had been erased. Her grief was for her baby boy, the one she refused to believe was gone. She clung to the idea that he was still in there somewhere, trapped. She'd write him long letters in prison, telling him about his childhood dog, about his favorite meals, as if she could coax the old Leo out with happy memories. He never wrote back. He was convicted of murder. Given his age, he got life with a minimum of 20 years. The day of the sentencing, I looked at Ethan's parents across the courtroom. The raw, unending agony on their faces. Their son was gone forever because mine wanted some quiet. That's the moment I think I truly broke. The sheer, pointless, devastating absurdity of it all. After the trial, Sarah moved out. She said she couldn't stay in that house anymore, with all the ghosts. We sold it at a massive loss. The grandfather clock was one of the last things to go. I just left it on the curb. I couldn't stand the sound of it anymore either. It's been 8 years. I live in a small flat in a different city. I work a menial job stacking shelves at a supermarket. No one knows who I am here. I'm just Dave, the quiet guy who keeps to himself. The irony isn't lost on me. I visit him twice a year. Christmas and his birthday. Sarah goes more often, I think. We don't talk much anymore. The visits are always the same. We sit in a sterile, gray room, separated by a thick pane of plastic. He's a man now. Taller, broader. The emptiness in his eyes has settled, become a permanent feature, like his eye color. We talk about nothing. The weather, the food in the prison. I don't ask him why, anymore. I did once, about 3 years in. I sat there and I begged him, Leo, for the love of God, just help me understand. What were you thinking? He looked at me, his head tilted slightly, like I was a puzzle he couldn't be bothered to solve. I wasn't thinking anything, he said. He was noise. I made him quiet. And that was it. No remorse, no anger, no sadness. Just a problem and a solution. He is my son. I see my nose on his face, my father's hairline starting to form on his forehead. I love him. I have to love him. But I don't know him. The boy I raised, the one who loved Legos and hated the ticking of a clock, he died that day in the woods too. I'm the parent of a killer. But I also feel like the parent of a victim. And it's a lonely, impossible place to live.
Thanks for watching. If you got this far, leave a comment, like if you liked it, and follow for more.